Hello and welcome. You have tuned in to World Business Report here on News 9 Live, where we get you all the latest from the world of business, economy and finance from all across the world. I'm Krishna Kumar. We begin with Apple, which is facing criticism from investors over its perceived slow progress as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, especially with rivals like Microsoft and Google making fast advancements in the field of AI. However, Apple CEO Tim Cook took up the matter and addressed those concerns, stating that Apple is indeed actively working on artificial intelligence and investing heavily in this technology as well. Cook emphasized that artificial intelligence holds transformative potential for users and that Apple is certainly not lagging far behind when it comes to AI. This report tells you all about it.
Apple has been under fire from investors for seeming to go slow on AI. Critics say the iPhone maker is lagging rivals like Microsoft and Google, which are using the tech in their products. Now Apple boss Tim Cook wants to challenge that idea. On Wednesday he said his firm was hard at work on the tech and investing significantly. He says it will unlock transformative opportunities for users. Cook also said Apple laptops powered by its in-house chips were better suited to AI than any rival. But he wasn't ready to give many more details. Cook said Apple would disclose its plans later this year. On Wednesday, shareholders rejected a measure put forward by unions requiring the company to reveal how it uses AI. Apple had rejected the proposal, saying that would tip its hand on strategy. A similar motion will be heard at Walt Disney's annual meeting in April.
Meanwhile, Microsoft has announced the release of a CoPilot chatbot tailored for finance professionals, aiming to streamline key tasks in finance sector. Initially available in public preview, pricing details of this CoPilot chatbot are yet to be disclosed. Now, this move from Microsoft aligns with a broader trend among business software providers, including the likes of HubSpot and Salesforce, to integrate generative AI into their products to enhance their efficiency. Microsoft's corporate vice president, Charles Lamanna, envisions the CoPilot empowering every department, and that the new CoPilot for finance will facilitate tasks like variance analysis and data reconciliation, as well as expediting the collections process in Outlook. Drawing on information from SAP and Microsoft Dynamics 365, additional features to this chatbot are expected later this year. Meanwhile, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman now faces SEC scrutiny over investor misleading claims, and the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, has intensified its investigation by seeking internal communications of OpenAI to determine if investors were indeed misled. Reports reveal that the SEC's focus on internal records from the ChatGPT creators, officials and directors will be with a subpoena being issued to OpenAI in December.
OpenAI is under investigation by US regulators, according to the Wall Street Journal Wednesday. It reported the Securities and Exchange Commission is scrutinizing internal communications by company CEO Sam Altman. It's part of an investigation into whether the company's investors were misled. Citing sources, the WSJ reported the SEC has sought internal records from current and former officials and directors at the ChatGPT creator. It's also said to have sent a subpoena to the company in December. The move followed a decision by OpenAI's board in November to fire Altman as CEO and kick him off the board. They argued at the time, quote, he was not consistently candid in his communications with the board. But Altman dramatically returned as CEO just days later. Microsoft-backed OpenAI also unveiled a new initial board with former Salesforce co-CEO Brett Taylor as chair. The Journal said SEC officials in New York have asked that some senior OpenAI executives preserve internal documents while they conduct the investigation. The probe comes as Altman is reportedly in talks to raise billions of dollars for a chip venture to expand its ability to power AI. The SEC declined to comment on the possible investigation. OpenAI and Microsoft did not immediately respond to Reuters' requests for comment.
Keeping it with the U.S., a report from the U.S. Commerce Department revealed a pickup in inflation numbers for the month of January in the U.S., driven by strong gains in service costs like that of housing and healthcare. However, the annual inflation increase marked the smallest in 3 years, keeping the possibility of a mid-year interest rate cut by the U.S. Central Bank, the U.S. Federal Reserve, alive, according to economists.
A report from the U.S. Commerce Department out Thursday showed prices picked up in January amid strong gains in the cost of services like housing and health care, but the annual increase in inflation was the smallest in 3 years. Economists say that keeps a mid-year interest rate cut from the Federal Reserve on the table. The Personal Consumption Expenditures, or PCE, price index, the Fed's preferred inflation gauge, rose 0.3% last month, in line with expectations. Data for December was revised lower. The monthly increase mirrored rises in consumer and producer prices last month, which most economists attributed to businesses raising prices at the start of the year. In the 12 months through January, PCE inflation rose 2.4%. That was the smallest year-on-year increase since February 2021. Excluding the volatile food and energy components, the PCE price index increased 0.4% last month and 2.8% on a year-on-year basis. That's the smallest advance since March 2021. Stocks opened higher and held those gains in late morning trading, as investors hoped Thursday's report raised the chances of an interest rate cut from the Fed in the first half of the year.
That's right, and talking about Wall Street, the S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed at record highs, buoyed by that in-line inflation data that met street expectations and also by artificial intelligence-related stocks. The Dow edged up 0.1%, while the S&P climbed 0.5%, and the NASDAQ gained 0.9%, marking gains for all three major indices in the U.S. for the fourth consecutive month. AI-related companies like NVIDIA and Advanced Micro Devices drove the rally, with NVIDIA up by 2%. This Reuters report gets you all the details.
The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ finished at record closing highs Thursday, as stocks got a lift from shares of companies related to artificial intelligence and inflation data that met forecasts. All three major indexes rose, with the Dow adding 0.1%, the S&P 500 climbing 0.5%, and the NASDAQ gaining 0.9%. All three gained ground in February for the fourth month in a row. AI-related chipmaker NVIDIA advanced 2% and was the biggest boost to the S&P and NASDAQ, while smaller rival Advanced Micro Devices surged 9%. A report from the Commerce Department showed U.S. prices picked up in January in line with expectations, amid strong gains in the costs of services, while annual inflation was the smallest in 3 years. Reports on consumer and producer prices earlier in February, which pointed to stubborn inflation, had led investors to dial back expectations of rate cuts to June, including Bill Northey, Senior Investment Director with U.S. Bank Wealth Management.
Inflation now has been on a steady trajectory toward the Federal Reserve's target since the middle of 2022. And while the CPI and the personal consumption expenditures deflator that we saw this morning have been giving somewhat mixed results, indicating that the last mile of inflation may be somewhat more challenging to accomplish, the trend clearly remains in place and sets the stage for the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates sometime near the midpoint of this year.
Stocks on the move outside the technology sector included Boeing, which fell nearly 2% after a report of a probe by the Department of Justice. And Hormel Foods, the maker of Skippy peanut butter, jumped nearly 15% after topping first quarter sales and profit estimates.
From U.S. markets to Asian markets, where Japan's Nikkei surged to a fresh record high, buoyed by Wall Street's rebound and inline U.S. inflation figures. However, elsewhere in Asia, markets remained subdued amidst uncertainty over China's economic outlook. China's factory activity contracted for a fifth consecutive month in February, while the services sector in China expanded, reflecting an uneven recovery in China's economy. Meanwhile, in Japan, factory activity shrank at the fastest pace in over 3.5 years. Away from Asia, in Europe, inflation readings eased, supporting the Eurozone's inflation outlook. Meanwhile, the yen slipped after mixed messages from the Bank of Japan's officials. Bonds, however, rallied following relief from data, and oil prices saw slight gains as well. Shifting focus to Bitcoin, which is surging once again, poised for its strongest month in over 3 years. By Thursday afternoon in Asia, Bitcoin was trading at around $63,000, showing significant gains overnight. It has surged nearly 50% just this month, marking its most robust performance since December 2020. Now, this recent boost in Bitcoin's value is attributed to the launch of exchange-traded funds, or Bitcoin ETFs, featuring the cryptocurrency, attracting a new wave of investors. This report tells you more.
Bitcoin is back on a tear. Frenzied trading has the top cryptocurrency on track for its best month in more than 3 years. By Thursday afternoon in Asia, Bitcoin was trading at around $63,000, having gone even higher overnight. It's up close to 50% this month, its strongest performance since December 2020. Now some traders say it looks set to test the record high of about $69,000 set in late 2021. Bitcoin has been boosted by the launch of exchange-traded funds featuring the currency. That has helped to draw in a new class of investors. It also reignited excitement that had been sapped by the so-called crypto winter, when prices collapsed. Investors have also been buying in ahead of April's halving event. That's a process that takes place every 4 years, whereby the rate at which new tokens are released is cut in half, making them harder to get. The prospect of US rate cuts has also put investors back in the mood for more speculative bets. Major exchange Coinbase Global says trading volumes have surged as a result of such factors.
It's time to put the focus on aviation world. After a mid-air blowout earlier this year on a 737 MAX jet operated by Alaska Airlines in the US that sparked renewed safety concerns, the US Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, has said that aircraft maker Boeing must develop a comprehensive plan to address systemic quality control issues within the next 90 days. This report tells you more.
Boeing just got set a tough deadline. The Federal Aviation Administration says the plane maker has 90 days to deliver a plan on how it will fix what it calls systemic quality control issues. That follows the mid-air blowout earlier this year on a 737 MAX jet operated by Alaska Airlines. No one was seriously hurt in the incident, but it revived concerns over how well Boeing's top-selling plane is made. The FAA has already capped production rates for the jet, and the firm's operations are being closely examined by customers and lawmakers. Now the aviation watchdog says Boeing must take steps to create a measurable systemic shift in quality control. It says any actions must incorporate the findings of an expert panel report that was released this week. That found that the firm had inadequate and confusing processes for promoting safety standards. The new incident is Boeing's second major crisis in recent years. It comes after 2 fatal crashes led to the MAX jets being grounded for 20 months. Those accidents were traced to a design flaw that has subsequently been fixed. The new problems play into the hands of arch-rival Airbus. Reuters has reported that United Airlines could place a massive order with the European firm to replace MAX jets it had ordered from Boeing. Other airlines, including Ryanair, have said they expect delays in the delivery of new planes from the US giant as a result of the turmoil.
Keeping it with aviation, British Airways owner International Airlines Group and Air France-KLM gave a positive outlook for the year 2024 on the sidelines of sustained travel demand. But the Franco-Dutch carrier's year-end troubles highlighted some of the challenges the sector continues to face. More in this special report.
Europeans have gone back on vacation since the global health crisis, and a return to beaches and city breaks also means a return to the skies for many. As consumers flocked abroad, revenues soared for 2 of Europe's leading airlines. On Thursday, Air France-KLM reported record revenues for last year. The airline made an operating profit of $1.8 billion, in line with analyst forecasts. Ticket sales were high, pushing revenues 14% higher year on year to $32.5 billion. But investors weren't happy to see Air France-KLM swing to an unexpected loss of over $60 million in the last quarter of 2023. Analysts had expected a profit. The carrier was hit by higher costs and disruption caused by conflict in the Middle East. That spooked markets and sent shares down 10% early Thursday. The stock price of rival IAG rose over 1% on the same day. The group said it more than doubled full-year operating profit, hitting $3.8 billion. The British Airways owner also gave a positive outlook for the year ahead due to sustained travel demand. Another leading European airline saw its stock price drop over 1% Thursday, however. Investors fear Germany's Lufthansa will likely miss its profit margin goal this year. They blame new higher pay deals to end prolonged strikes, which have forced Lufthansa to cancel thousands of flights.
India's Bharti Enterprises founder and chairman Sunil Mittal made history by becoming the first Indian citizen to be conferred an honorary knighthood by UK's King Charles III. Recognized for his services to UK and India business relations, Mittal received the award, a prestigious honor under the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. In response, Mittal expressed being deeply humbled by the gracious recognition from King Charles in an official statement. Shifting focus to the world of entertainment. Get ready for a star-studded showdown at the 96th Academy Awards as Hollywood heavyweights Robert Downey Jr., Robert De Niro, Ryan Gosling, Mark Ruffalo and Sterling K vie for the coveted Best Supporting Actor Oscar Award. The event, bear in mind, is set to be held on the 10th of March and it promises a night of intense competition and entertainment as well. Take a look at this.
A star-studded cast makes up the nominees for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars this year. Of the 5, only one has taken home an Academy Award before, so who are the contenders on the night? Robert Downey Jr. receives the nomination for his performance in Christopher Nolan's smash hit Oppenheimer.
Truman needs to know what's next. What's next?
He plays Lewis Strauss, the nemesis of the main character, American physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer. Some pundits view Downey as the frontrunner. He's already swept up a Golden Globe, BAFTA, Critics' Choice and Screen Actors Guild Award for the role.
Money flows freely here now. do love that money, sir.
Veteran Robert De Niro is looking for his third golden statuette after being recognised for playing the controlling mastermind William Hale in Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon. De Niro is the only previous Oscar winner amongst his fellow nominees.
That's just been really beautiful.
Mark Ruffalo gets his mention for starring alongside Emma Stone in the sex-charged gothic comedy Poor Things. His performance as a flamboyant lawyer earns him his fourth Oscar nomination.
I mean, I'm at that age now where there might not be many more of these, and I can appreciate it in a different way than I ever could before.
Sterling K. Brown rounds off the list for playing Clifford Ellison in the comedy drama American Fiction.
People want to love you, Monk. You should let them love all of you.
Winners of the 96th Academy Awards will be announced at a live televised ceremony from Hollywood on March 10.
Can't wait for that Oscar ceremony to kick off. But with that, we have run out of time here on this edition of World Business Report. Thank you so much for watching. This is Krishna Kumar signing off.